Here's a question that will change how you see relationships. Why do some conversations blow up the moment you tell the plain truth? Not the cruel truth. Not the, I'm going to be brutal because I'm honest truth. I'm talking about calm, straightforward reality. The kind you'd want someone to tell you if the roles were reversed. You say what you mean. You speak clearly. You don't insult. And suddenly you're in a storm. Tears. Accusations. So, you don't love me. So you're saying I'm not enough? I knew it. You're not debating facts anymore. You're defending your character. Then on the other hand, you say the comforting thing, the polished, safe answer, and everything's fine. You're sweet. You're supportive. You're a real man. Most guys experience this and draw the wrong conclusion. They think women can't handle truth, or they decide honesty is pointless, or they start living a double life where they never say what they actually think. That's the trap, because the real issue usually isn't truth versus lies. It's something deeper, emotional safety versus emotional threat. It's the difference between a partner asking for information and a partner asking for reassurance. And it's the difference between a question and a test. Once you understand what's happening, you stop getting dragged into impossible conversations. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop training yourself to lie. And you learn how to communicate like a man with a spine, calm, direct, and unshakable without turning your relationship into a battlefield. So let's break down the dynamic, the hidden truth behind honesty problems. A lot of relationship conflict isn't about the topic on the surface. It's about what the topic represents. When someone asks, "Do I look fat in this?" that's rarely a neutral request for data. It's usually an anxiety flare. It's someone reaching for certainty. Tell me I'm still wanted. Tell me I'm still safe. Tell me I'm still valuable. That's not evil, that's human. Men do the same thing in different packaging. Men just tend to ask questions that point toward action. Am I slipping? Do you respect me? Am I failing? We want a reading so we can fix something. Some partners, men or women, ask questions that point toward emotional stabilization, make the fear go away. And when the answer doesn't neutralize the fear turns into anger. Not because you did something monstrous, but because you didn't play the role they wanted in that moment. Here's the crucial distinction. A mature partner can hold discomfort and still stay connected. An immature partner needs discomfort removed immediately, and if you don't remove it, you become the enemy. That's the entire game. So when a man says, "I tried being honest and it blew up," he's often dealing with a partner who cannot regulate insecurity without outsourcing it. And that creates a relationship where the man becomes a full-time emotional firefighter. Why trap questions exist. Let's talk about what men call trap questions. The problem isn't that someone asks for reassurance. The problem is when reassurance is demanded through a setup that punishes any real answer. You've heard these. If I died, would you remarry? Am I prettier than your ex? Do you think my friend is attractive? Am I as attractive as when we met? Be honest. What's wrong with me? These questions often have the same structure. No answer is safe. If you say yes, you're heartless. If you say no, you're lying. If you hesitate, you're guilty. If you try to be nuanced, you're dodging. Psychologically, this is called a double bind. A situation where every option is wrong. And double binds create chronic resentment because you're being asked to prove loyalty in a way that requires you to either lie or get punished. That's not communication. That's a pressure test. Sometimes it's conscious manipulation. More often, it's unconscious anxiety trying to gain control. Either way, the result for the man is the same. He starts filtering everything through what answer prevents drama instead of what's true and useful. And when that becomes your default, you don't just lose honesty in the relationship, you lose honesty with yourself. Why comfort lies feel rewarding in the moment. Here's what most men miss. When you give the safe answer, it creates immediate relief in the moment. That relief feels like connection. It feels like harmony. It feels like you handled it. But if you constantly trade truth for short-term peace, you train a terrible system. Your partner learns that anxiety gets rewarded with reassurance. You learn that honesty creates punishment. The relationship becomes dependent on performance. Real intimacy dies because intimacy requires reality. It requires being able to speak openly without fear of retaliation. A relationship that functions only when you say the right lines isn't a partnership. It's emotional theater. And yes, many couples live in that theater for years. The man becomes easygoing because he stops expressing anything real. The partner becomes sensitive because any real feedback feels like danger. Both sides become lonely, even while living in the same house. The real issue is emotional regulation. Let's remove the gender war and talk like adults. The core issue is emotional regulation. If someone cannot experience insecurity without turning it into accusation, if someone cannot hear feedback without turning it into, you don't love me, if someone cannot tolerate disappointment without punishing you, then your relationship isn't facing a communication issue. It's facing a maturity issue. And men need to hear this clearly. You cannot love someone into emotional stability. You can support growth. You can encourage therapy. You can be kind, but you cannot perform someone into security. If they don't build internal resilience, your relationship becomes a loop. 1. Insecurity shows up. 2. They demand reassurance. 3. You reassure. 4. Relief is temporary. 5. Insecurity returns stronger. 6. They demand more reassurance, more control, more proof. That loop doesn't end with more love. It ends with exhaustion. This is why some men shut down over time. Not because men are naturally cold, because they realize that every honest moment becomes a crisis and silence is safer. That's not emotional unavailability. That's emotional self-defense. Why men feel like honesty gets weaponized. Now let's talk about a real problem when vulnerability becomes ammunition. A man says, I'm stressed about work. Later in a fight, it becomes, you care more about your job than me. A man says, I'm worried about money. Later, it becomes, so I'm a burden? A man says, I feel disrespected when you talk to me like that. Later it becomes, so now I'm the villain. When a partner stores your honesty and reuses it as a weapon, you learn quickly, speaking costs you. And if speaking costs you, you stop speaking. So the fix is not be less honest. The fix is only build deep intimacy with someone who can handle intimacy. That means someone who can hear hard things without escalating, without humiliation, without retaliation. Because the ability to hold truth without turning it into war is one of the clearest markers of emotional adulthood. The appearance example, handled like a man. Let's handle the classic, do these jeans make me look fat? Question. Most men answer like it's a math problem. They think the goal is accuracy, but usually the goal is reassurance. Are you still attracted to me? So here's the high level rule. Respond to the question behind the question without lying. If you lie, you weaken your integrity. If you answer too literally, you trigger insecurity. If you dodge, you look evasive. So you combine truth with leadership. Try this. Is that a real question, or are you wanting reassurance? Pause. Let them answer. If they say reassurance, got it. I'm attracted to you. Those jeans aren't your best cut. Want my honest opinion on which pair looks best. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. You're not insulting them. You're not pretending reality doesn't exist. You're offering leadership and options. If they insist on just answer, I'm not going to do the trap thing. I'm attracted to you, and I'll be honest without tearing you down. Those aren't the most flattering fit. And if you want, I'll help you pick something that looks great. A mature partner respects that. An immature partner wants you to sacrifice reality to soothe anxiety. If that's the expectation, you're in trouble long term. The am I as attractive as when we met example. This one is emotionally loaded because it touches aging, comparison, and fear of losing desirability. Here's the mistake men make. They treat it like a courtroom. The right move is to acknowledge the fear and then bring it back to something constructive. Try. I hear what you're asking. You want to know if I still want you the way I used to. I do. And if you're feeling off about yourself, we can work on that together. But I'm not going to pretend time doesn't pass. I'm here. I'm committed. And I want us both taking care of ourselves. That does three things. It validates the emotional need, security. It refuses the delusion. Time has no consequences. It offers a path forward, shared responsibility. If your partner can't handle that, the issue isn't your honesty. The issue is their inability to deal with reality. The bigger point, reassurance is not the same as deception. Men need to understand this. You can be emotionally supportive without being dishonest. Support is, I'm with you. Deception is, reality isn't real. A lot of couples confuse the two. Some people treat emotional validation as a requirement to agree with whatever they feel in the moment. That's not validation. That's submission. Validation means, I understand you feel that way. It does not mean you're correct. And if your partner requires you to agree with irrational conclusions to prove love, you're not in a loving dynamic. You're in a control dynamic. The impossible hypotheticals and how to shut them down. If I died, would you remarry? That question is usually grief anxiety. It's fear of being replaceable. So you don't answer it like a contract negotiation. You say, I'm not doing hypotheticals designed to hurt us. I love you. I'm here. If you're feeling insecure, talk to me directly and I'll show up for you. Same with the, is my friend attractive? I'm not ranking women like we're in a contest. I chose you. If you're feeling insecure, say that and I'll meet you there. That's how a stable man answers. He refuses the frame, responds to the need, and sets a boundary. The real danger for men, becoming a professional appeaser. Men lose themselves one small surrender at a time, not through one big betrayal, through constant little ones. Sure, you're right. No, nothing's wrong. Whatever you want. It's fine. You do it to keep peace, but peace bought with self-erasure isn't peace. It's slow death. A man who constantly appeases becomes less respected, less trusted, less attractive, and more resentful. Because deep down, he knows he's living a lie. And here's the brutal truth. The partner who demands appeasement often loses respect for the man who provides it. Because strength is not compliance. Strength is calm honesty. So what should men do? You don't fix this dynamic with better compliments. You fix it with three things. Frame control, boundaries, and standards. 1. Control the frame. When you sense a trap question, don't step into the trap. Say it plainly. That question feels loaded. What are you really needing right now? This forces adult communication. 2. Set boundaries around punishment. If honesty leads to screaming, silent treatment, threats, humiliation, or public shaming, you address the behavior, not the topic. I'm willing to talk about anything. I'm not willing to be punished for honesty. If we can't talk respectfully, we pause this conversation and come back when we're calm. If they escalate, I'm ending this conversation until it's respectful. Then you follow through. A boundary you don't enforce is not a boundary, it's a hope. 3. Choose partners with emotional capacity. This is the part men avoid because it requires discipline. You cannot build a peaceful life with a chaotic person. You cannot build intimacy with someone who weaponizes vulnerability. You cannot build stability with someone addicted to drama. Chemistry is not character. Attraction is not maturity. A man has to learn the difference early, before marriage, before kids, before legal entanglement. What mature love actually looks like. Mature love is not in never hurting feelings. Mature love is safety plus truth. It's being able to say, this isn't working. I need more respect. That behavior is unacceptable. I'm feeling disconnected. We need to change our habits and still staying connected. If your relationship cannot survive honest conversations, it will not survive real life because real life brings layoffs, health issues, aging, family conflict, stress, temptation, grief. If your partner needs fantasy to function, reality will eventually break you both. A challenge for men watching stop being afraid of emotional reactions. A lot of men cave because they think a partner's distress means they did something wrong. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it means the partner is uncomfortable, and discomfort is not harm. You're allowed to be honest. You're allowed to have standards. You're allowed to refuse loaded questions. You're allowed to say, I won't lie to make this easier. You can do all of that while still being kind. That's the sweet spot. Truth without cruelty. Support without submission. Leadership without dictatorship. The real tragedy. This dynamic kills intimacy. When truth becomes dangerous, intimacy dies. You end up with a man who goes quiet and a partner who complains they're not emotionally connected. But the connection didn't die because he changed. It died because truth became a liability. And no man can stay open in a relationship where openness is punished. So the answer isn't to become colder. The answer is to become clearer. If you're in a relationship where honesty causes war, you don't negotiate with chaos. You require adulthood. And if adulthood is impossible with that person, you make the hard call early before life forces it later. Closing. If you want a strong relationship, stop rewarding emotional games. Stop teaching people that meltdowns control you. Stop living as if your job is to maintain someone else's emotional comfort at the cost of your integrity. You are not responsible for managing another adult's feelings. You are responsible for being honest, respectful, and consistent. And if your honesty is met with punishment, that's not love. That's a control system. Men don't need to become liars to survive relationships. They need to become leaders of themselves first. Drop a comment. What's the most loaded trap question you've ever been asked? And more. Importantly, what did you learn about the person asking it? Subscribe if you want more real conversations about relationships, masculinity, boundaries, and building a life where you don't have to trade your integrity for peace